My jacket is immaculate. They can try as much as they want. They won't be able to tarnish me because I have ethics and morals. And when I expect ethics and morals from others, I expect it of myself.
If there is one concern which unites the hyper-right populist parties of the Western world, other than the innate depravities of foreigners coming over here, taking our jobs, hosting our current affairs podcasts, etc., it is law and order. Law and order, the bellicose conservative solemnly intones, that's what we're all about. Law and order, they thunderously declaim, we can't get enough of it. Order and law, if you'd prefer them that way round, whatever, vote for us, and that's what we'll serve up, and in prodigious quantities. Law and order, can we have a sound effect of people banging their clipboards vigorously on their desks in an exultant demonstration of feverish zeal? Law and order. Except, it turns out that this rule, or law, or order, is not always, as these people see it, applicable. Earlier this week, Marine Le Pen, leader of the French far-right party National Rally and bookmakers' favourite for the 2027 French presidential election, was convicted, along with several associates, of fiddling EU funds, circa €4 million worth. Among the more picturesque offences, allotting fake EU Parliament jobs to National Rally members as a means of siphoning public money for party purposes. Le Pen was fined €100,000, sentenced to 4 years in the clink, though 2 were suspended and the other 2 can be served via electronic tag, and probably most vexingly from her perspective, banned from seeking public office for 5 years, which obviously benches her for 2027.
It's of course because we are about to win the election.
Le Pen denies everything and plans to appeal.
Prime Minister and leader of the far-right League Party, Matteo Salvini, calling it a declaration of war on the part of Brussels.
Viktor Orban saying, Je suis marine, I am marine.
Geert Wilders, head of the Dutch Freedom Party, tweeted, I support and believe in her for the full 100%, and I trust she will win the appeal and become President of France.
Hastening to her defence are some of the Western world's noisiest advocates of law and indeed order. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Dutch Freedom Party leader Geert Wilders, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, Vox leader Santiago Abascal of Spain, and US President Elon Musk, yes, we did that deliberately by way of satirical mischief, have all pledged their solidarity and or unwavering belief in Le Pen's innocence. All, interestingly, have thus far been conspicuously silent about the legal travails of former centre-right French President Nicolas Sarkozy, already convicted of corruption and currently facing the prospect of 7 years of prison bouillabaisse if convicted of trousering bungs from unlamented Libyan despot Muammar Gaddafi. It is almost, as if these people are not so much advocates for the rigorous and impartial application of law and order as they are bad faith partisan bun hurlers intent on waging some sort of inane culture war. Also standing alongside Le Pen in this, her hour of need, was Russia, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov sternly inveighing against what he called a violation of democratic norms, which does, can we all agree, sound just awful, and certainly completely unlike anything which would ever happen in Russia. Here is what should not be a controversial suggestion, that if you, a citizen of a reasonably functional democracy, are convicted by a court of law of a serious crime, say a crime serious enough to warrant a €100,000 fine and 4 years in the hoosegow, if the state also disbars you from seeking public office, it is merely observing the basic tenets of civic hygiene, i.e. preventing the crooked and malicious from exercising power. Put more simply, if you want to be president, don't steal stuff. Among those, incidentally, who have been commendably clear on this point is Marine Le Pen.
I have heard the president say we should instate lifelong ineligibility, and I was completely in agreement, since it's in my presidential project, but just for those convicted of corruption and fiscal fraud. But what about the rest? What about favoritism and misappropriation of public funds or fictitious jobs?
At least that's what she thought in 2013. But times change. The question which thus arises, and which will shortly be answered in tones of weary derision, is why the ardent law and order enthusiasts of the populist right are positively stampeding to line up behind a felon. It may seem illogical, but it isn't. The sentiment which principally animates modern populism is self-pity. It is a creed which has been embraced across the democratic West by the fortunate citizens of free, prosperous and orderly nations who find it more exciting to believe themselves the brutally subjugated subjects of an elitist establishment, and are therefore eager to believe any charlatan willing to encourage such notions. When one of their sentinels ends up in the dock, and Le Pen is not the first to have demonstrated the overlap between populist tub thumper and grifting crook, it merely reinforces this delirium. While this is obviously potentially dangerous, it has been nevertheless depressing this week to read some allegedly sensible commentators wringing their hands at Le Pen's conviction, fretting that it may have rendered her more powerful. Just as, for example, US President Donald Trump seemed able to leverage to electoral advantage his conviction for cooking the books to pay for the silence of the star of Trailer Trash Nurses 6.
And it's a shame. It's a shame what's happening to our country. This is election interference.
So it is entirely possible that the populist right will see Le Pen's conviction as a positive boon, further evidence for their proposition that they, the authentic voice of the people, are being suppressed by a deep state of conniving career politicians and complicit judges. It is not even impossible that this week's apparent setback will ultimately work to Le Pen's benefit. Maybe a sufficient plurality of French voters will buy her line that, really, when you think about it, she's basically a cross between Alfred Dreyfus and Nelson Mandela. Maybe her conviction will prove crucial in getting her likely stand-in, Jordan Bardella, over the line in 2027. Or maybe it won't. Whether Marine herself or her ghastly father, the late and unlamented Jean-Marie, there has been a Le Pen on every French presidential ballot since 1981, and they haven't won it yet. As this endurance demonstrates, it is not easy to conclusively defeat people who can spin every loss as a victory, every disgrace as an affirmation. But if justice makes allowances on such grounds, what are we even doing? For Monocle Radio, I'm Andrew Mueller.